famous throughout America. The cricket sound was the Strat sound, and it soon spread to Britain and Europe.
Boy, that Stratocaster, man, you could turn that thing up where you could blow the back end out of a building and it wouldn't feed back on you. And of course, we liked that because that was, we loved to play loud, you know. It was a terrific guitar. It was versatile. You could flip that toggle switch forward and play rhythm real well. When you broke into the lead, all you had to do was reach down and you was into high gear, man. I mean, burn people's ears off if you wanted to.
The public loved the new sound created by Buddy Holly and the Crickets, but musicians were being influenced by blues players as well. Otis Rush and Buddy Guy were also using Stratocasters.
Well, by then I'd become acquainted with the instrument, but I'd become a blues aficionado, and my favourite of that at that time was Freddie King. He played a Les Paul, so for an early part of my career, I was a Gibson man until a little bit later on when I heard Buddy Guy for the first time, and I realised that he was playing a Strat.
Back in California, the Fender factory worked overtime trying to keep up with demand. However, owing to a post-war trade ban, the guitar was hard to obtain in Britain.
I didn't like the guitar sound I had, and it was a Vox amp and a Gretsch guitar. It was, you know, in those days, it was like, it was early days, and you were lucky to have anything, you know.
The first time I actually saw one was on the cover of the first Crickets, in fact, probably the only Crickets album, the Chirping Crickets. We had seen a couple of photographs of guitars with cutaways, like, I don't know what they are now, some of the early, maybe Les Pauls, perhaps. But to see a guitar of this shape in 1957 was quite amazing. So we decided to order a Stratocaster, and we got a brochure from Fender in California, and we went through the brochure and chose the most expensive Strat.
She'll be coolin' twice gone, I gotta roll on down the line. Oh yeah, we're gonna get me some lovin', love that fool is mine.
After I first got it, I used to go down to some of the clubs, the rock and roll clubs in London, and just get it out of the case, you know, and sit in with the band, and people just go, it's fantastic.
The Fender company was now exporting more musical instruments than all the other US manufacturers combined.
The GIs stationed overseas, principally in Germany and around, would buy these things, and they'd be playing in some of the clubs and things around, and the locals would see them, and they'd want them.
And I was in Hamburg, and I found out some guy had a Strat for sale, and I arranged that I was going to go first thing the next morning and buy it. And the fella who was the guitar player in the band Ringo was in, called Rory Storm and the Hurricanes, he found out about it too, and he got up earlier and went and got it. And by the time I got there, it had gone. I was so disappointed. It scarred me for the rest of my life.
Remember first seeing it. I mean, when it's sort of like a solid memory in my head, it's probably like Beach Boys or, you know, surf music. And I didn't think of it as a Stratocaster per se. I didn't know what it was called, but I knew this sort of shape and this design. And when you're a kid, the more pickups and knobs and switches a guitar has, you know, when you're younger, you think you can do more stuff. So I saw these three pickups and these three, I said, oh man, cool, and what's this thing?
The toggle, what it does is, that is this pickup. So that is the sound of it. If you want the middle pickup, a lot more mellow. And then this pickup. Now, the secret in the old days used to be, when you had the three-piece switch, was to stick a match in there and carefully go between the two. So you get the very famous plunky, that type of sound.
So with this thing here, the tremolo arm, I mean, you can hit virtually every note that there is to hit. You know, it's spring-loaded. It's got 5 springs on the back, and in the olden days, it was no more than kind of, you know, at the end of a song. But it's much more advanced. Players are using it in a different way now.
They got this curve here, you know, which just lays right in your body. And it's funny because when I started out, everyone, you know, Jimmy Page, all the cool guitar players seemed to play down around their knees, right? And I did that for a while, but I realized I was playing horribly. And over the years, it's gotten higher and higher until now it sits nice up here, and this curve is great because it fits right under my ribs. And it just, you know, when I move around, it just kind of like does caress your body a little bit as opposed to the hard edges that a lot of guitars have.
When it's round your neck, you're not aware you're carrying weight. It's there to play, and you don't worry about it. It doesn't drag you down. It doesn't pull your back out. You don't go back at night and going, you know, it's like, it's the perfect, it's perfection.
It's comfortable to play sitting down, standing up, and it's just something that, it looks cool. It's associated with so many cool players that, you know, it's inescapable, really. It's, you have to have a Strat if you're going to play guitar.
The Beatles rocketed to fame playing Gretsch and Rickenbacker guitars, and naturally Fender wanted them to change. So Don Randall offered them $10,000 to use Fender. But Brian Epstein, the Beatles manager, said no.
And I could have had square ones and round ones and fur ones, you know, like Bo Diddley. I never thought, I didn't know anything. And, you know, even in the mid-60s, you know, people kept thinking the guitar craze was finished.
This was bad news for the Strat.
I mean, they were so unfashionable, the Stratocasters then. They were all going for like $100, $200 each. And I bought about 12 of them for virtually nothing, because they could not get rid of them. And I took them back to England. I gave one to Pete Townsend, one to George Harrison, one to Steve Winwood. And I kept 4 back for myself and made one out of those 4. And that was the one that, there was a black one. And it became my main instrument for a long, long time.
But what saved the Stratocaster was its unique design and sound.
It's a very simple instrument, so that there's plenty of room for the musician to put his personality into that, you know. And as we were saying, you know, you have to play, you have to dig into a Strato, you have to work with it, you know, and that's good because it brings out the soul.
Many guitarists have been attracted to the Strat because of its versatility. It's always offered them a wide range of creative expression.
I find that it's the guitar that expresses one's personality the best. I find that some other guitars tend to make people sound the same. I can't tell the difference between some guitar players if they're playing on other guitars, but on a Fender you can usually say you know who it is playing the guitar, and it's their personality comes through a Fender better.
The Stratocaster does all the things that all those other guitars do. It's really the other guitars are famous for they have a certain sound, but this one will do all of those. This will do a big box Gibson sound. You know, you can make it sound like a jazz guitar. I mean, it'll do that. Or it'll sound like a Telecaster, you know, it'll do the Telecaster thing. Or you got the, you know, they're both big. I mean, it'll just do everything, plus it looks cool.
Eventually, even the reluctant Beatles were won over to the Stratocaster's charms.